Welcome to another special episode of 5 Sports. As the Euro tournament knockout phases continue on, we will continue to bring the coverage. And today, our exclusive footy expert, Darya Amirshahi, is back today to discuss the latest two rounds, the round of 16 and the quarterfinals. So, Darya, welcome. It's good to have you, and looking forward to talking some footy with you once again. This time
Yeah,
on
thank
this time on camera. Usually we have our banter off camera, but this time we'll be bringing some of the heat onto the show. Darya, it's good to have you here. Should we start with the round of 16? Should we go in chronological order? The Wales Denmark game. You want to start there?
yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
4-0 thumping by Denmark. Wales really one of the least deserving teams to be in the knockout phase, and rightfully booted out quite promptly by the Great Danes. 4-0 result for them. Nice and easy for Denmark. Maybe the scoreline, I think the scoreline was reflective of the way Denmark played, but I mean, Wales is really a pathetic performance, I would say. Just, I mean, you can at least show up defensively if you're Wales, right? At least you could put on a solid defense. I mean, from top to bottom, this wasn't good enough from the Welsh side.
Yeah, like you know what I did say beforehand that they were probably the weakest team in the round of 16 going in, and
Mhm.
I wasn't really impressed with them in their group with Italy. So coming into this game, it was going against a team which I from the start of the tournament thought are going to be the dark horses, and as of now they're kind of proving it of the tournament. Denmark, which have looked very impressive even without Ericsson. And yeah, they really did they really did get destroyed in that game, and I mean, what can you do? They didn't their style of play that Wales went in and was a defensive mindset didn't really work for them in the end. So they had to pay for it in a absolute thrashing.
Yeah, if you go in with that defensive mindset, you at least have to, keep it goalless, at least for the first, 40, 45 minutes. And once Dolberg broke the deadlock in the 27th, the second goal right after halftime really is one that sealed the deal. I'm pretty sure we all knew Wales weren't coming back. Just looking at the stats, I mean, they had one shot on target throughout the game. Just really wasn't good enough from Wales. You think maybe, like some of the passion that it would come through, but it was too much of a pragmatic approach, I think, from the Welsh side, and just they really weren't able to. They didn't get Bale and Ramsey involved, which kind of helped them in their final group games. Just it wasn't good enough from Wales, and it's really the story of their tournament. Simply not good enough all around.
Mm-hmm.
The Let's switch to a team that has been very impressive, a team that is playing beautiful football. Let's talk about the Italians, who in the round of 16 matchup had a tough-ish matchup against Austria. At the end of the day, they did prevail. Italy, are they the tournament favorites? We'll talk a little bit more about their second game, but are they the favorites in this tournament with with four teams left?
I definitely think so. I think this Italian team is incredibly fun to watch, which again, I never thought I would really say in an international tournament. They're very fun to watch with a lot of depth in their midfield. I'm quite enjoying their performances so far. And especially in the round of 16 against Austria, it was a great game. Austria really came at them. I remember we predicted it would be an easy win for Italy, but no, Austria did really make them like have to actually work. So it was, they're a very enjoyable side to watch, I think, out of the teams that are left. And I think, honestly, they are the favorites right now. I just think the depth they have in every single position, and they're all kind of firing at all cylinders. It's really, it says a lot about where their direction is as a team. And if it's not in this Euros, I really do think in the World Cup next year, they have a massive chance.
Yeah, I think we'll talk more about Italy, especially in the game against Belgium when they're really strutting their stuff and they're really passing around the park. But just against Austria, it was a tighter game. And Austria, when they want, they're very hard to break down defensively. Alba, in the leader in the middle of the park, he's had a different role than he's seen in the Bayern side. But he was the one trying to create offensively, and there definitely were chances for Austria, pardon me. Those half chances that on another day maybe you convert one of them. You have someone in the wrong position. But the one thing I say about Italy, what's kind of what everyone's talking about, I think, is their midfield, especially because the midfield is being, very cohesive, and all the intricate passes and all the the 1-2s and the movements that they have been going on. So I think a lot of the focus has been on guys like Jorginho, Verratti when he's stepped in, guys like Barella. But I think a lot of the credit goes to the defenders. Spinazzola, unfortunately, with ACL, but that crucial block on Lukaku, just it shows kind of Italy, how hard they are to break down. They don't really create big chances. When you do have a big chance on them, you have to convert, because Chiellini and Bonucci, they've been around forever. And even though, you would think, their age would be a factor, it doesn't really look like it. Their experience and, the passion that they have for the national side is just, it's basically, overcome anything else that, or any frailties that they do have at the back, whether it's their pace or, just the lack of kind of acceleration that maybe that they would have, the way they spread the pitch. But the one thing I would say about Italy is just, it doesn't matter where they have the ball, they're always a threat. They could be passing around the back, or they could have the ball in your own 18 or in the opponent's 18-yard box. They are just so dangerous. They are so technically gifted. And Roberto Mancini has done a fantastic job to turn that team around. Not making the World Cup in 2018. We mentioned it last week on the podcast. It's been mentioned, plenty in the media. So I think Italy, it feels like their tournament to lose. It's like the feel good story. This great soccer nation missing out on the biggest tournament, coming back to win the European Championships. That's where I'm kind of heading. That's where my mind's kind of going as we speak about this Italy-Austria game. But that felt like the one thing I do want to say about that game, which I think really holds true, that was their game of adversity. Every tough or a good team has to have that moment of adversity, or the team that maybe isn't as good as them, but challenges them and makes them bring out a level that they didn't really know was there. And I think that's what the Italians had to do. Then in that extra time game, Austria made it tough for them. Italy had chances. They should have maybe closed it out in the initial 90, but their resilience, their grit defensively, there's no flaws in this Italian team. And that's I'm finding it hard to predict either one of the three teams left to have a chance to beat Italy. They are good. If they do lose, it would be because of themselves, not because of their opponent. That was a good rant. The others, let's go to the Sunday quarterfinals, or round of 16 games, pardon me. From Sunday, the 27th. We're a little behind here, but the Czech Republic beat the Netherlands. Darya, I know you have some, Dutch ties in your family, or you have some family members that support the Dutch. How disappointing was that game against the Czech Republic? Because it's really a tale of two halves. First half, Netherlands played, they were the better team, didn't score. Netherlands, second half, with 10 men, changed the game.
I think this is a testament to what the Dutch used to be like. As I'm myself, I'm a supporter of. I like the Dutch as well, like the style of football. My father as well has been a big fan.
Or the old Dutch or the new Dutch?
The old Dutch,
the
old Dutch.
Johan Cruyffs and the Bergkamps and the Van Nistelrooy's Dutch, or the Memphis Depay's and the Genie Wijnaldum.
No disrespect
in midfield.
No disrespect to them, of course, Genie and Depay, but there's a gulf of class, like a difference that is like it's huge there. So, but that being said, watching the Dutch, even like just as a neutral, personally, I was watching this game and wondering, where did this Dutch team how did it get to here? And it seemed like they were completely out of ideas in a sense. They definitely have some very talented players in that squad, but I think Czech Republic came in with the right mindset. Frank de Boer throughout the entire tournament has not impressed me whatsoever, and it's telling because he got sacked after this. But he stuck to his formation, and it's unfortunate. He was a great player, Frank de Boer, but as a coach, he's not proving himself at all. But then again, like if you look at that game as itself, Czech Republic did come in wanting to win. They wanted to get this result. And it's as simple as that. I don't think the Dutch really wanted to actually go through. It didn't look like they looked very tired, especially in that second half. And they looked like a completely different team to what you would usually get when if we were talking about like 2010 Dutch team and all those teams. Like it just looks completely like there's such a gulf of class, a difference there, which is unfortunate. But Czech Republic came with the right mindset and they got the win, and they fully deserved it 100%.
Specifically on the Czech Republic game, the game turned in the second half after the red card. I think it was Malin that had the one-on-one. And it really shows how quickly a football match can change. Sometimes, you could be, stale. It could be too stagnant, two teams kind of just, waiting for the other to make a mistake. And, at this level, some of the players are just too good and some of them are too tactically organized not to make a mistake. But, in this game, De Ligt, huge error, lets the ball bounce, which you never, as a defender, you should never let happen. We got that coached when we were playing in soccer. You never let the ball bounce. He let the ball bounce, takes an awkward one. He slips. and he tries, instead of letting the guy go, which is what he should have done, he handles the ball, easy red card. I don't think there's any debating if that was a straight red because it was a clear goal scoring opportunity. If people want to debate it, sure, maybe the Dutch will, but at the end of the day, it was poor decision making from a young player in Delit. And I think that's where the game changed. But on Frank de Boer, it's just you're almost waiting for him to make a mistake. It was like like people were maybe thinking, can they get out in the group stage? Like what can they do? But they kind of did have played some exciting games. The game against Ukraine was fun, and then they won. So it's such a quick turnaround in the Euros because you really don't have that many games. And especially in the knockout rounds, it's quick. If you go home, you go home. There's no redemption once you lose a game. And Czech Republic took advantage of a weaker Netherlands team, a team that probably had a lot of problems in the dressing room, especially with Frank de Boer. He's basically failed everywhere he's gone now. If he gets another job, good for him. I'd love to apply with his CV, getting fired from Crystal Palace without scoring a goal in 7 games, getting fired in the MLS. It's pretty low standards. How he got the Dutch job, we'll never know. It's kind of like Martin Brathwaite in the Denmark team and in Barcelona. How the hell he got there, I really don't know. But sometimes in sports, you find yourselves in interesting situations, and that's where Frank de Boer found himself. Let down a nation. The Dutch are out. They used to be a great footballing nation, but they just look like a shadow of themselves. I think he tried to change too much of identity. Sometimes change is good, but too much change, at once isn't necessarily a great thing. And the Dutch never really felt like a cohesive unit going into the tournament. Almost like France, they just seemed disjointed in the dressing room, and that was their downfall. Even if they would have advanced past the Czech, it just seems very unlikely that they would have gone much further. A sad end for the Dutch. Maybe not such a sad ending for Belgium. They beat Portugal 1-0. Just on that game, was this more of a case of Portugal missing their opportunities?
I would say so. But I also think that we have to give credit to where it is with Belgium. We obviously know what happens later on in the next round, but I think as a performance, they definitely came out generally as a better team. I do think seeing Thorgan Hazard and Eden Hazard working together, and I think Eden Hazard put probably one of his best performances in the last 2 years in that game against Portugal. And that's coming from me, who isn't necessarily a big fan of him. But in terms of overall performance from Belgium, they looked very cohesive. And I think Portugal in itself were not looking that great, especially in their game against Hungary in the group stage. So, not against Hungary, against in their last 2 games against France and Germany. I didn't think they looked all too great. And I think tactically they were very much set as a very defensive mind and very pragmatic, kind of like the Wales team. Of course, they have the better players in the sense. But I think at the end of the day, I think Belgium just came out with once again a great mindset. And that's the thing you'll notice with all the round of 16 and these knockout games is depending on the team that wins often has the better mindset going into it. Not always with this defensive approach. And I think that teams like Czech Republic and now even with Belgium, they came in knowing what they need to do, and they settled on this. And mind you, Thorgan Hazard's goal was fantastic, but they didn't have to rely upon it. They could have scored more as well. It was a great game to watch, to be honest, and I have to say Belgium did deserve it in the end.
The one person, in my opinion, solely responsible for the loss was Fernando Santos. I don't know how you can't even have Bruno Fernandes on the pitch. You have to find space for him. You take him out for Yata, you put him up top, and you drop someone else in the midfield. Fernando Santos got it completely wrong throughout the entire tournament, in my opinion. Ronaldo scored his goals, a few of them were for penalties. I don't think he was fantastic. It wasn't, vintage Ronaldo, but I think a lot of that was just, Portugal just having players set up in the wrong position. I'm trying to think the fullback that got injured. I think it was Guerrero, and then they had to, utilize Semedo, and Semedo was really a liability. I just think Portugal, it was like square pegs and round holes. It never really clicked. Bruno Fernandes never really had an impact because he never really had the opportunity to play. To leave a guy with that kind of quality on your bench, especially when you're playing 2 CDMs and guys like a Pereira and Carvalho, it just the entire Portuguese setup didn't make sense. I felt like I was watching Man United when they were at their worst last year under Ole, when they were making or when they were running McFred. It seemed way too. it seemed too safe, and you can't win it. You can't win a Euros being safe. Belgium punished them, and Belgium didn't really have to do much after the Hazard goal. They sat back on it. Their three center backs, I don't think are very good. When you look at Vertonghen, Vermaelen, Denier, he has his shifts. And Alderweireld, they used to be much better, but now they've lost, a step or two. I think their reading of the game has definitely gone down. They're not really playing in their prime. We talked about Chiellini and Bonucci earlier. They still have that, game sense. They still have that elite game sense that has kind of carried them throughout the latter stages of the career. And I feel like the Belgian defenders lost that. They're just not as smart, and you have to be that. And that's why they lost in the next round. But Portugal and challenged that, and with all the attacking, I mean, we all knew their strong point of the team would be their attack. Their attacking players, they weren't the most solid defensive team, especially in net with Rui Patricio. I mean, Pepe outshone Ruben Diaz. It's just everything that you expect with the Portugal side was the opposite, and I think that's why they went home. Fernando Santos has to go home. He can't be coaching that team anymore. I think the Euros was also a fluke. I mean, credit them for winning the tournament, but we all know that it was a pretty easy run to get there. And the game and the finals against France, I mean, 1 in a million. It was like Chelsea against Bayern Munich in 2012. They had no right to win the game, but they won the game off, one one lucky goal. Goodbye Portugal. They had a horrible tournament. It's unfortunate because with a team with all that talent and all that potential, you want to see them play up to their potential, but unfortunately, that's not what happened for them this tournament. The Monday games were exciting. Let's start with Spain, Croatia. What a game that was. Went to extra time, 5-3 Spain. A wild ride, to say the least.
Oh my goodness, that whole day was crazy. But just starting off with that game, I mean, everything in terms of first of all, both teams did not know how to defend for their lives in that game. They were attacking one another, and I have to be honest, like watching through, and obviously we'll talk about Spain when they go in the next game as well, or in the next round. But the one thing I'll say about the Spanish team is that they really do sometimes lack an identity as a side. They very much are still stuck in this transition phase of dealing with Vincent Del Bosque and now having Luis Enrique being there as their manager. And in terms of this game, though, I think I loved how Croatia came out with a great mindset going in. I think there was some both sides were going at each other. I thought in terms of the midfield on both sides was quite an interesting matchup in general. And seeing the way both of them were trying to go at each other, it was quite interesting. And I honestly thought Croatia were done when it was 3-1, not when Spain were 3-1 up. And the fact that they came back in the way they did to send it to extra time is quite impressive. It says a lot about the faults of Spain as well, but you have to give credit where it's due. And unfortunately, they lost in extra time. But it was quite an interesting game from the start, and it was very exciting. And I hope there's more to see from the Spain team as we're going into the semis.
One thing I'll say about Spain is for a team with as much talent as they have, they've gone so wrong, especially the players they left behind. Sergio Ramos should have never left behind. You just don't leave a guy behind with that kind of leadership, that kind of presence, that kind of big game mentality. It just, when you look at his pedigree, when you look at what he's won with Real Madrid, when you look, and not only what he's won, what he's earned at Real Madrid, because he has been the catalyst, alongside so many other players, that have donned, the white of Real Madrid. It's confusing, especially, Iago Aspas was also left behind. Morata, he's like Timo Werner. If he scores, he's offside. If he doesn't score, he's onside. It's just such a frustrating team to watch, Spain. And then they keep playing strikers out wide. They have Sarabia and Moreno playing. I don't know what Luis Enrique is doing sometimes. The midfield, they're sometimes so fluid. Sergio Busquets, for the last 15 years, he's controlled any midfield he's played in, whether it's been in Barcelona or Spain. He makes any midfield tick. It's quite unbelievable to watch how consistent he is. Against not against Croatia in their other game. I'm thinking of the one in the semifinals. Who does Spain play in the semis? Switzerland. In that, sorry, I'm saying in that
quarterfinals.
In the quarterfinals, pardon me. Yes, in the quarterfinals against Switzerland, you look at the margin of error. Sergio Busquets, it's his error that leads to a goal. Among other things, Laporte and Torres getting their brains kind of twisted, but it shows the margin of error that Spain has, especially when they have guys that create chances but don't score goals. And that's been the story of Spain's tournament. They create chances, they're not converting them. As a Chelsea fan, it's eerily similar to watching Chelsea, control the entire game, find a way to lose 1-0. So Spain against in the semifinal against Italy have to be more consistent, but against Croatia, they found a way to get it done. Sometimes in soccer, we had that crazy Monday. Sometimes you'll just have a day like that where maybe just God, was having or decided to, play around, have some fun with, the emotions of every football fan worldwide. It just feels like that's what happened. But Spain overall, they need to improve. They need to score their chances because their margin of error against Italy is going to be slim to none. And the France Switzerland game, Switzerland, they did them probable. They knocked out France, and they had to do it from behind as well. 3-1 up were the French. Switzerland missed the penalty. That seemed like game over for them, right? France go down the other end, score a few minutes later, take the lead, and again a few minutes later. But Switzerland, the grit, the determination, the fight, especially when you from guys like Granit Xhaka, the captain, the leader, is it just one of those games where just spirit and emotion take over and you throw football out the window? Because I mean, tactically at the end, it was a free for all basically.
Oh, it was, and for that very reason, it's probably why it was one of the best, I think, games in the tournament. I couldn't
100% the best game in the tournament.
It was unbelievable. Both sides going at it. I thought and look, I know France lost in the end, but they had some really good performers out there. I think Pogba probably put one of his best in a French shirt so far. Mm-hmm. And I like just the way that both approached the game was so awesome. And there was pure passion. You can really tell, especially when Switzerland did end up winning. I mean, it was a shock to be sure. I don't think anybody really predicted Switzerland to beat France in the round of 16. And it's one of those things where, as a fan, this is one of those games where you say, "This is why we love football. This is why we love the sport," because it really is a beautiful game. Because there's stuff like this that can happen. And although we obviously know what happens to Switzerland later on, it was still incredible to see that the champions of the world were knocked out by Switzerland. And mind you, in a penalty shootout, the way Switzerland fought back and kept going was incredible. It was honestly one of the most incredible games I've seen in football.
Yeah, Granit Xhaka deserves a lot of praise for that game. He really, I mean, he basically progressed the ball from midfield up to the attack. I mean, the game ran through him. He was the show. The one thing I'd say about Pogba, I mean, that game just encapsulates Pogba in a nutshell. Brilliant game. But the one thing that we almost get, or the one thing that gets talked about as well, or just as much as his brilliant performance, the passes that he made. Unfortunately, some of the passes didn't get through. The one goal he scored, I have to say, in that game was phenomenal. I mean, no look, a top corner. We want to see more of that from Paul Pogba because we know he has it in his locker. But he makes a mistake for the third goal or for the second goal. It's just he can't be that lazy, or he can't be that unaware of situation. He can't try to be the best player on the pitch all the time. Sometimes simplicity is kind of the best way to go forward in a game, especially when you're leading. You look at I want to mention a guy like Jorginho. He's not the flashiest player. He's not going to he's not doing all these roulettes, or he's not doing all these fancy step overs, or he's not doing Rabonas all over the pitch like Pogba sometimes tries to do. But he gets the ball, he moves it on, he creates space for others. He's always in the right position. And sometimes a player like that in that position in the midfield, and we know how crucial the midfield battle is in soccer. That's where many games are won and lost. Sometimes just the tiniest mistakes can cost you, and that's what we saw against Switzerland. Sometimes it doesn't, and we wouldn't even have to mention Pogba making error leading up to Switzerland's second goal, but he does that, and I think it kind of goes unnoticed how often he does it. And it in soccer, the margin of error is so slim that you can't get away with those errors at this level. And for a player with all the potential and with all the talent, because he's not a young kid anymore. With he has experience, he's in the prime of his career. Does he have to know better? And as a Man United fan, you've seen the all the ups and downs of Paul Pogba. You've seen him at his best, you've seen him at his lowest. You've seen him in every state possible. So just what are your opinions on Paul Pogba? Because no matter where he goes, controversy follows, and some of it is unfair, but I think some of it is justified. And I just want to know where the line is drawn with you, because it's a tough player to analyze, and it's really a tough position to really kind of dive deep in.
Well, here's the thing. I said it was probably one of his best performances in this game against Switzerland, but
Mm.
you just mentioned as well. He scored a brilliant goal. He made some incredible passes. He was quite good, but he gives away a goal. Like, he was basically the reason for the third goal. So this is the thing about Paul Pogba, is that there's no doubt he has a talent. There's no
Mm-hmm.
doubt he is able to turn a game on its head and like really take it by the scruff of its neck. The problem about him, though, is that he often is in a side which doesn't really benefit his type of style of play. And I find that, like, I'm not to go too much to United, but I will say that that's consistently the problem with United right now, is that he doesn't fit with that type of style. And especially with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's very counterattack like style. But the thing is, I noticed with France, is that much of the issues that you would see in a side like United are very much solved because of the talent they have. I mean, you could say that Conte was doing very much the stuff that if United had a Conte like player, then
Mm-hmm.
there wouldn't be
Pogba would
too
have the
much of it.
freedom. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But the thing is that says a lot about how good Conte is that you put a player or any like you put any player with Conte and he's instantly better. I think
Yeah.
Pogba on his own is a good player, but the thing is there's not two players that complement him as much as Conte does. That being said, I think the performance for France in almost every game has been pretty good, and even with Conte aside, he has contributed to the sides, even though they got out. So my thing with it is, like, there is a level of patience, even as a United fan, and I'm assuming if you're a French fan,
Mm-hmm.
you have that level of patience as well. But it does make me think, okay, well, why is he playing like this for this France team and not for United? And to be honest, I just think it's simply down to the style of play that they go for, especially in international football.
I agree. I think part of it's style of play. I think a part of it's just immaturity from his point. I think he wants, or his ego is just so big. He wants to be the main attention. He wants to be talked about. And, again, I said it sometimes, it's unnecessary. And, with games that are as high stake as these, and you look at Switzerland, they're not trying to be flashy. They know they don't have to be flashy. They know they have to be gritty, and they know they have to play pragmatic, and they know they have to be smart. And, on the ball, I thought they're brilliant. They didn't give the ball away very cheaply very often. They tried to stay as organized as possible. France, did break them down at times, Pogba being a big part of that. But Jan Sommer deserves all the credit because he was phenomenal until they got eliminated till the very end. And that's really what it came down to France. With the talent they have, there's nowhere to hide for Deschamps. He didn't do a good enough job. I don't think there's much disputing that. Zidane's probably coming in for the next World Cup, and I completely support that decision. I think Deschamps, he got it wrong in the Euros. He won the World Cup in 2018. Credit to him, but again, it wasn't the most impressive performance. A lot of it was just the star powers. A lot of it was Mbappe and Griezmann and Giroud, and I don't think they were as tested as much, and they really weren't tested in the group stage. But sometimes you run into a tricky opponent, and that's what the Swiss were for them. And unfortunately for the French, fortunately maybe for teams that, or for everyone else that wanted the French out, it's a good sign for them. And that's just what happened to the French. And football's a funny game, as you said. The last two games, England, Germany in the round of 16. England still are yet to concede a goal. Is it coming home with Gareth Southgate? Is he about to lead the charge?
I honestly don't understand this side, man. I really don't. I really thought they were so poor in the group stage. And I mean, even against their best game against actually I would say Croatia, never mind, Czech Republic. In the first game, it's probably the best they played. And then coming into this game against Germany, I wasn't so hopeful, especially with Gareth Southgate and his lineup so far.
Mhm.
And even seeing it, I think you and I were texting each other like, what is this lineup? Why are they going in with this type of defensive again? Like, are we going to see this defensive game? And to be honest with you, I thought England played pretty well. And you'll see against Ukraine,
Yeah,
suddenly they turn it up. I don't know, against this
brilliant.
Germany side, which to me, I also think that this Germany side is nowhere near as good as
No.
they used to be. And that is part of the problem here. but you have to give credit where it's due. I mean, Garrett Southgate put out a side that went on to win that game against Germany out of all sides, and that was their first, I believe, first knockout win in over in so many years. So
Hmm.
to me, I thought they definitely played better in the second half. I think the first half they were very much, both teams were pretty much at a level head. In the second half, there was a difference, I feel, in performance, and I thought there was like the likes of Sterling and Alexa Harry Kane. I don't think Harry Kane was all that great, to be honest, as well. But I mean, it's a weird side, this English one, because they weren't playing all that great, but you can tell that they have the talent to really bring themselves out of these little holes that they put themselves in. That being said, you have to give the credit to where they are now in the semis and beating Ukraine as well. So it was
We'll
quite
talk.
impressive.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Ukraine performance in just a bit. But the one thing I'd say about the England Germany game, it wasn't like the most impressive English performance. Is again, I've used this word a few times. It was pragmatic. They matched up against Germany. They tried to imitate the shape. Germany hasn't been great. Minus maybe the Portugal game, but even then they had some defensive issues. I think that credit to Southgate because I think he had a game plan. He had a plan A and it worked, so he didn't really have to divert to anything crazy. The first half, it's pretty boring. No, none of the neither of the two sides really created chances. But once the Sterling goal went in, you felt like it was over because I didn't have much faith in Germany's scoring. Felt like even if they did have a chance, it wasn't going to matter. And Thomas Muller, had the 1-on-1, didn't go in, and that's really what the game was. Germany, passed its best. Yogi Low, it was really a new system for him. It looked kind of unorthodox. It looked like he wasn't really comfortable playing that system. Um, and it didn't come together for Germany. And I think that's what it came down to. I just don't think they had enough time to prepare. I think we talked about Italy and how organized they looked. I think Italy's been playing the same style since the World Cup, since Mancini came in, and Germany they really had to change it, and it's being the transition. They haven't had enough time to, I guess, work on tactics, and Yogi Low. We knew he was retiring, so I think just a lot of that came into play for Germany. And once England grabbed that goal, once Sterling had it, it felt like game over, and they now have an opportunity. They beat Ukraine. They have, I guess, the easier draw compared to the other side. When you look at, I guess, the Italian draw, if you want to call it that. So it's an opportunity for England, and it's a huge one. And it may not come again for a couple tournaments. So they really have to take advantage of this. They really have to take advantage of this Euros. Quickly, the Ukraine Sweden game. We could just briefly go over it. Extra time, final minute. Good for Ukraine. It's a good memory. That's
Yeah,
what that's what we can say about Ukraine. It was a good memory for them.
it was a good memory for them. I mean, they beat Sweden, and I don't think they've been to the quarterfinals actually. So that was quite interesting
It's
to
a good
see.
story. I mean,
Yeah,
how can you not like that story for Ukraine? Last minute winner
yeah,
against Sweden, get thrashed by England, but it's all fun. It's what football is about, and nothing beats the last minute winner,
absolutely.
especially if you're a Ukrainian. If you're a supporter, if you live in the country, if you don't live in the country but you are Ukrainian, I mean, just is there any better feeling than scoring a last minute winner at a Euros in a knockout tie? I mean, just the adrenaline just must be through the roof at that point.
Yeah.
Ukraine. That was just a nice little brief moment on Ukraine. I'm smiling for me to hear. I love Ukrainian people. They deserve better than getting thrashed by England. But let's talk about the Ukraine England game since we're on both of those teams. It was a tight first half, but they get the goal. They get the goal early on, and then Ukraine try to hold on as long as possible. But then again, to start the second half, Harry Kane scores again. And another Harry scores, Mr. Harry Maguire. And at that point, it was game over. And in England, I think their passing was crisp. They had enough attacking possession, I thought. And once they were up three, they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. They didn't have to create as many chances, but they still, were pressing. If they would have gotten another goal, they would have celebrated, and they would have all gone crazy. But once it was two, once it was three, I mean, the steam of the game was taken out of it, and man, that was really the death of Ukraine. That's where
Yeah,
that's where it's
yeah,
done.
yeah. I have to say, seeing Luke Shaw playing the way he is right now. By the way, he's been incredible
Brilliant.
for this English side. Probably one of the best left backs right now. And also seeing him cross to Harry Maguire and that it was a great as a United fan. But yeah, no, I agree. It was obviously a tighter game in the first half, but England just kind of ran away with it as soon as they scored their first. And it was a performance that I guess a lot of people were kind of asking for in a way, because it's been very, very, as you said, pragmatic in the past few games. And Ukraine with honestly the perfect opponent for them to go forward and now to this semifinal tie against Denmark.
Yeah, speaking of Denmark, beat the Czech Republic 2-1. Is two of the teams that were the kind of the feel good stories of the tournament, but Denmark more so, especially after the Ericsson incident, and especially after the way they've had to kind of rally after their initial first two group games. They had 0 points, but they beat the Russians 4-0. That pushed them into the second place spot in their group, thanks to not Wales, but thanks to who is in the Denmark, Belgium, Russia, Finland. So thanks to Finland and Russia, they get to go through, and they're through into a semifinals after being the Czech Republic, scoring early in both halves, set the tone. Or sorry, not in both halves. No, they scored early in the first half, late in the second half. Czech Republic scored early in the second half, but it just wasn't enough. And Denmark, the only thing I'll say about Denmark, defensively, they've been solid. They really haven't been broken down much. And I think a huge part of that has been the development of Andreas Christensen. He played in the midfield against the Czech Republic, but I mean, the entire Danish team has been playing with a heavy heart, and you could see it on the field. The emotions that they have brought since the Finland game, they have been on top, and I think they can ride this momentum against England. I really do. I think they have a good chance as anyone to win this tournament at this point.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think that first of all, it would be a great story if they did end up doing it. But obviously, there's still another tie to go. And in terms of the Czech Republic game, I did think that Denmark once again played very well. I don't think there's been a game this year or in this tournament from Denmark that they actually didn't play that great. Because I think as a side, as you said, defensively, they looked very great, very good. But unlike England, they're not as defensively motivated. They have an offensive approach and a lot of fluidity between the midfield and their offense going forward. And I do like to see it. It's actually Denmark's quite a fun team to watch. And with that, I think they do definitely have a chance against England, which we'll obviously talk about again. But overall, they're a dark horse in my opinion for a reason, and I do generally think they have a chance.
I completely agree with you, and I think Denmark, they have the pieces right now, and they're playing a great system. They have the physicality to challenge a lot of these teams. They're not an easy team to break down. Speaking of teams that aren't easy to break down, Spain versus Switzerland, the first quarterfinal went to penalties. Switzerland just ran out of gas in that penalty shootout, couldn't score on Unai Simon. It was pretty poor penalty shootout. I think it was a pretty poor game overall. I think both teams were just fatigued from their extra time games. I mean, Switzerland must have had a lot taken out of them emotionally. Spain, maybe not as much. Defensively, it was a very, tight game for both sides, simply because neither team really wanted to make that mistake. Spain, it always felt like they had the upper hand. I think they knew they could rely on their experience, and they could rely just on the fact that they what was I going to say? They basically relied on the fact that they knew they had the better players. Switzerland, they did give it their all, but once they had the guy sent off, Freuler, just they lost all momentum. The Shaqiri goal kind of gave them a boost, but I feel like Michael Oliver took it away from them a little bit. I think it was an incredibly harsh red card that they had given against them. I thought it was a yellow card, but you can understand, Michael Oliver's point of view. But the one thing I do want to say is VAR, they have VAR and they're using it completely wrong. I think a red card, we know it's a crucial moment in the game, and VAR is used to kind of make sure that they get, the big calls right. But it feels like they're using VAR to kind of get marginal, and they're looking to create controversy VAR rather than get games right. And it seems like there's just more controversy coming out of it. Maybe not in this tournament, because they have used technology with some consistency, which is unlike what the Prem has done. But I thought or I think that they can use VAR to not influence games, but to kind of to make the right decision. I think, just put it plainly. And I think, or not, I think I'm in the opinion of, you have VAR. Why can't you look at a red card decision? I think quite clearly that it was a yellow card, a challenge. He doesn't go with the studs up. It kind of went. He brought the studs down. I think we've seen a lot worse.
So,
And
so okay.
yeah, I don't think you could justify giving a red card. And when you have VAR, it wasn't your second yellow; it's a straight red card. So I don't know why they can't look at that. They can't take a minute, say, hold on, that's not a red card challenge. It's a yellow card. Let's move on. Let's continue.
Personally, I'll say this. I remember we talked about it earlier. I personally disagreed. I do think it was a right call to give it a red card. Personally, I
Okay.
did see the studs going in, and that even if he was trying to back away from it, it was still a dangerous challenge from the beginning. So I think him going in was already going to be a death sentence for him in that game. That being said, Michael Oliver saying straight up a red card. I thought it was a red card when I instantly saw it. When I went to see it in the replay, I could understand why someone would come away and say, okay, that is a harsh challenge, but I think I can just give that a yellow. I can get that. I just think that, and this is where the part I do agree with you. I think VAR is being used in a very strange way. I think it's been better in the Euros, but this is one of those
Mm-hmm.
examples where it's still not perfect. There's still decisions that are they need to figure out a way to get the balance right, because you and I will have different decisions or different feelings on a certain call. And if that's the case, that's the same thing that's going to be happening when you're with Michael Oliver or in the VAR team, because that's ultimately what happened. Michael Oliver saw it one way. VAR team, and actually in this case agreed, but everybody else will say otherwise. My point by saying this, though, is that I think they are very much just focusing on the marginal errors when there are pretty big ones like this that they can overturn if they absolutely need to. That being said, I do think it was a red card challenge, but again, I can understand why someone would come in with a different approach and think it's just a yellow at best.
Yeah, feeling I got it. Like the majority of, I think, football fans do agree with me that it was a yellow card challenge, just because the way he slid in, I don't think it was too high. He was very low on the ground. I mean, you maybe saw the studs up. I do disagree a little bit there, but the one thing I find disturbing is how quickly it was checked. It didn't feel like there was a check. It feels
Yeah.
like he made the decision, and there would have been like some crime if they would have overturned it if the ref makes a wrong decision. It's like they're overly protecting the refs, and we see it especially in England. And we have to talk about it because it is an English referee and Michael Oliver, and it was an all English VAR crew. Like, why are they so afraid to make the right decision? It baffles me, because I think we saw one replay, and by then they said the VAR check was over, and then we saw a few more replays, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's no way it should be a red card. It basically takes out Switzerland from the tournament. It's almost like they wanted Spain to advance. But we see too often in soccer or in football where the decision's made, and now that they have the technology and it is such a crucial moment in the game, they can't take an extra 30 seconds just to look at it and say, let's make sure we're getting it right. Honestly, I thought it was a yellow card challenge. So why can't they just go back, say, look, this is a yellow card, it's not a red, and let's keep the game flowing. Let's keep it even for both teams. I thought it was a little bit of an unjust red card, and that's why I'm in the opinion that it's ridiculous to have referees that just dismissing so quickly, and they're just like they're here to protect each other. And that's what bothers me. Instead of getting it right, it's almost like they're protecting their own image, and that's not what the game needs. That's not what the future of the games need. That's not what's going to bring in the younger generation of fans. They have to understand that sometimes it's important to get the call right rather than to make yourself look stupid,
Well,
because by getting the call wrong, you just make yourselves look like an ass.
Well, with that sense, I think that's also an accountability issue that I think most Premier League refs are having to experience. They don't often take responsibility for these type of calls. And if Michael Oliver were to have said, no, this is actually a yellow card, for some reason, that's not, I guess, the route he
I
wanted to
don't
go.
I don't know why he can't go to the monitor quickly. I don't know why he can't check that. I don't know why he was dismissed literally in an instant. But I guess that's the
And
reality
I mean, it's
of
subjective.
today's
That's
game. Hmm.
That's a problem. That's a problem of VAR as well. Is that like football is such a subjective game. You'll have different opinions everywhere, and while there might be a majority for one and a majority for another, it's often going to be the problem. And I don't know how they necessarily fix this, but this is an example of a game that kind of had this issue that we see the Premier League brought into
Yeah.
here. Even though I do personally disagree with it, I understand what you're saying completely.
Yeah, it was a very tired performance from both sides, but a non-tired performance was from the Italians against that Belgium side, and Italy were flying. That was the best team performance we saw throughout the entire Euros. I mean, Italy basically owns all the best team performances, but that one took the cake. I mean, they were just brilliant. You know, the way they were passing through that Belgium side, Belgium did not have a hope. They didn't have a prayer in that one.
Same thing with the what we saw in the Austria game. It was
Hmm.
unbelievably like they were such a they're such a great cohesive side and fun to watch. Again, it's so strange for me to say that, but it's so fun seeing against this Belgium team, which it's unfortunate that they're at this rate. They're at the end of their golden generation, but you gotta give credit where it's due. Mancini has transformed this Italian team, where I think Luis Enrique is actually failing personally,
Hmm.
into making this side into a fluid, attacking, footballing side, and they have the players to back it up. They have their midfield, as we mentioned before, is so cohesive with Verratti and all the others that are around him. It is quite incredible, and they're getting goals from every single department, which is just great to see.
Hmm.
And it's unbelievable, and they fully deserved, in my opinion, the win against Belgium.
Um, Yeah, I'd say that the second goal is really where the game changed in that game. Lorenzo Insigne, it's a case of great attacking and poor defending. I don't know why no one would step up on a guy, especially on his favorite foot. You know, we've that's basically Insigne's signature, and they allowed him to have his moments. And in these tight games, in these moments, where games are won and lost, Italy, took advantage. Barella had a brilliant first goal as well. Took it extremely well. Um, we could talk about Ciro Immobile diving off for that goal. I mean, there could be some talk on that and how to kind of rectify that and how to kick that out of the game. Honestly, I'd suspend Immobile for the rest of the tournament. I would suspend him for a whole entire year, to be honest, because the level of diving, the level of kind of deceit and cheating that they're allowed to get away with. I mean, it's like someone shot him, and all of a sudden they score a goal, and hey, look at me, I'm okay. It's just they have to find a way to kick that out. I don't think they actually will be able to because it's become part of the game. Everyone does it, so it's like they don't want to eliminate it because for whatever reason. I mean, my punishment if I was FIFA president would be so severe. If anyone was caught diving, I'd suspend them 20 games. And I mean, that's how you eliminate it, because who the hell wants to be suspended 20 games, especially in a soccer season where it's short. You don't have much. You don't have much wiggle room. The margin for error slim, especially in a 38 game season or in a Euro a tournament where it's quick. The turnaround is extremely rapid, and there really isn't much time to maneuver. Anyways, just that was my little rant on Ciro Immobile, pathetic dive, but whatever. I move on. Italy are brilliant. The passing to the midfield was unbelievable. They're running triangles throughout them. Pass, move, move, move. That was Italy for you. That was basically their game in a nutshell. Belgium had their opportunities in the second half. Lukaku had that golden opportunity where it's tough, but he could have maybe slid into the corner, but it was one of those situations where didn't work out for him in that moment. Sometimes strikers miss big chances. It wasn't the easiest chance. It was great defending from Spinazzola, last ditch defending at its finest. And that I mean, Belgium lost the game defensively. They had their chances to score. They had a few big chances, the hard mouth moments didn't work, and they're going back to Brussels without another trophy.
Yeah.
Okay, we made it. We got through the last two rounds. Let's preview the semifinals, and it should be a doozy. Let's talk about the first one. It goes tomorrow, Italy, Spain. I have one winner. It's pretty simple. I have Italy. I can't see Spain beating this team. Spain has to score first if they want to win, because if Italy scores, Spain, I'm gonna find it very hard for them to break down this Italian side that just they've been so tight and so compact.
I honestly I have only one team as well, and that's Italy. I I'm not convinced by the Spanish team. I haven't been the entire tournament, and going into this one, I think the Italians are just on incredible form. They're playing, they're going to be playing Wembley, which is going to be a great stadium to watch this type of game. It'll be interesting to see how Spain approach it. To be honest, I do hope that they go in with they both teams do love to hold the ball, so there's definitely
Exactly.
that.
It's like who's willing to give up possession in that game. I don't know which side is going to be able to do it. I
No,
think I think what's going to happen. I can see it's coming from a mile away. I think Spain are going to get caught out somehow. Maybe they push too high up. Italy is so quick, especially their attackers. They can get the ball from their own end up, with one pass. And I think Italy, the danger for them is they can score in a variety of ways, and Spain really can't score in a variety of ways. They score scrappy goals. A lot of it comes from crosses. A lot of it, crosses into the box. The ball falls to someone's foot. I think Italy are going to know how to deal with them. I think they're too well prepared. I think they're too emotionally invested into this tournament. I mean, you have to be emotionally invested, but it feels like it's just been bubbling up since 2018 World Cup. I see only one winner in this tournament. I think Italy's going to win it all, and I think they're going to defeat Spain pretty comfortably. If I'm going to be honest, I think this is going to be the semifinal. I think the other semifinal is going to be much closer. I don't think Spain holds much of a chance to be. I mean, Spain's probably going to win now, but I think Italy's going to win 3-1.
Yeah, for me, I'll probably go with a 2-0 Italy. I think they'll just repeat what they did to Euro 2016 and get a 2-0 victory. I don't see really a chance for Spain in this game, to be very honest with you.
Let's move on to the other semifinal, England Denmark. This one's interesting. It's an interesting game. Two fan favorites. Either you love England or you hate them. We don't hate England. I don't know if we necessarily love them at times. We have a love-hate relationship with the English side, but Denmark, they are playing really well. They're gonna run the 3-4-3. I don't think the rumors are England's not gonna match. They'll go back to a 4 for this game. How do you see this one playing out? Because I see it playing out one way. I want to know how you kind of see this game going.
It's okay. Let's be fair. I think both of us can agree it's a really incredibly tight game. Both sides I've been in their own ways impressive, I guess, one more than the other. To me though, it really comes down to how does Gareth Southgate approach this game? Because I kind of know how Denmark should go in with it. It's very much the same as they have before. It's now England that I feel like we need to see what side they actually put out there. And if we're going with the back four, that already tells a story about what kind of lineup we could be going for. That being said, I do think that both sides look impressive in their own ways. And if I'm honest, they can't. I surely can't see England losing again in another semifinal back to back. I know that was in the World Cup, but they surely can't lose again. And I feel like this is the best chance they got to going to an actual final. So to me, I'm actually to go with 2-1 England, even though I do think Denmark definitely have a chance in this game. I just think England have the talent and they have the just enough to pull themselves ahead and go to the final against Italy. And I guess
You know what's going to happen in this game?
You go ahead. Let me hear this.
Denmark's going to win.
Oh, wow.
And if Gareth Southgate goes with Rice and Phillips again, he's going to get caught. He is going to get caught because Delaney and Højbjerg are going to sit back. They're going to relax. They have Vestergaard on one side. He'll mark whether it's Foden on the left, or on the right, pardon me, whether it's Foden or Sancho. Vestergaard will be able to tuck in. Meili will be able to cover the wing back that comes in, if it's Shaw or if it's Kyle Walker. Meili's been terrific this entire tournament. He'll sit. The wing backs will kind of push back for Denmark. And attacking wise, they have Damsgaard and Dolberg. I think one of those two is going to score a goal. I think they work really well together, and I think England haven't conceded yet, and that's why they have to concede eventually. I think they're going to lose this game 1-0. I think the back three of Kjær, Vestergaard, and Christensen have been phenomenal. I don't think they're going to give England much to work with. I think Harry Kane's going to have a poor game. I can see Gareth Southgate trying to be way too creative with Harry Kane, and he's going to get marked out by the three giants in the center of the pitch for the Danes. I see Denmark tactically matching up very well against the English side, and I think it's going to take a worldie for England to score against them. I don't think Gareth Southgate has prepared them to break down a team as disciplined as Denmark is. Ukraine, we've seen their defensive frailties. Denmark doesn't have any defensive frailties. And they know how to control the ball. They know how to control the ball very well, especially in the midfield. They know how to spread the pitch. I am just I think Denmark's gonna win this game 1-0. I don't know who scores. I think maybe Damsgaard, maybe Dolberg gets one up top. Something has to give with England, and I don't love Gareth Southgate. We've said this multiple times. Um, has it been an easy-ish run? Maybe, Germany wasn't at their best, so they got through that one, and then the Ukrainians really, uh, fell for them. Denmark is going to win this game, guaranteed. Denmark will win this game.
Wow.
Gareth Southgate is going to shoot himself in the foot with his formation. He's going to try to run Rice and Phillips again. It's going to be unnecessary. You don't need it against Denmark. They'll catch them on the counter. I can see that. I had a vision, I had a dream. I see it coming from a mile away. My telekinesis, whatever you want to call it. Watch out for Denmark. This
okay,
team, it's going to be Denmark, Italy in the final.
I gotta ask, if England loses, does Gareth Southgate get sacked?
Oh, Gareth Southgate, by beating Germany alone, he bought himself another international tournament. That's just a stands for England. I mean, he's had a good tournament, but they haven't been they haven't been a free flowing side like Italy have. They haven't been scoring goals consistently enough. A lot of the goals being jammy against sides that don't match up to the same caliber of talent they have. I mean, we're talking about England like they're not good. They're the most talented squad probably in the world.
Oh, hands down.
Like they don't have necessarily a weakness. Their two center backs are incredibly informed, and John Stones and John Stones was brilliant for Man City, and Harry Maguire has stepped up incredibly for United. Declan Rice, for West Ham has been the defensive rock. We know what he brings. Calvin Phillips for Leeds. Declan Rice allowing him to go from box to box. But the attack it's been poor. Sterling, he's got his goals, but I don't think overall his gameplay has been up to the standard that he's been at. And I think the goals have matched his performances, and a lot of people aren't going to talk about that, but we will, because we talk about everything on this show. Harry Kane, I don't care what people have said, he's been so poor. This has not been the standard that Harry Kane has brought for Spurs. I mean, they're using him wrong. I mean, he's not a CDM, so I don't know what the hell Gareth Southgate's trying with Harry Kane. He gets his goal against Ukraine, but I mean, I could have scored those two goals. It's positional sense for Harry Kane. Harry Kane is too smart. A world class striker, knows how to be in the right positions, and when he's put in the right position, he scores goals. So figure that one out if you're Gareth Southgate. And then they have whoever they put on the right. For some reason, I mean, Gareth Southgate doesn't realize Jadon Sancho is his best right winger. I'd even put Jack Grealish on there. I'd put either Sancho or Grealish on the right side, but he won't. He won't put Grealish because I mean maybe he slept with his daughter. I don't know what Jack Grealish did to him, but Jack Grealish is their best player. I don't think that he's the most informed attacker. Am I wrong? Jack Grealish, no. He makes things happen. I mean, he was the sole reason they scored both goals against Germany. He made it happen. So, if he wants to play favorites, if he wants to run with Sterling, I just think his luck will run out. Christensen will mark him out of the game, guaranteed. Sterling will not score against Denmark. I could bet you $100 on that. I guarantee doesn't score against Denmark and against Christensen. He's been in form. Kjaer, their leader, their captain, along with Schmeichel. Schmeichel will pull off a worldie, and that will be it. I went on a little rant here, didn't I? Denmark 1-0, guaranteed. I wish I had the Charles Barkley guarantee button. I would hit it right now. I'm excited for the game, but I think Denmark's going to win. Simple as.
Okay.
You're not in agreement.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
And that's what I love. I love it.
It's a tough one. I do get it though. I've been calling it since the start of the tournament that they're dark horses. So this is one of those. I'm not sure, man. I really don't know. But I get it. I can see Denmark winning this game. Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. I'm just giving the edge.
Darya, the good news is we'll find out over the next 2 days who advances. Yes. We'll 100% preview the finals. We will probably be back. We'll have a show on Friday to talk about the semifinals, preview the final, one of the biggest games in the world. Copa America is also going on for all the South American fans out there. Enjoy that. Messi's been brilliant once again. If anyone doesn't call him the GOAT, you don't watch soccer. Messi is just a show to behold himself. I mean, you don't have to go watch Argentina, just go watch Messi, because that is Argentina. Brilliant player. little off topic there, but we will be back Friday to preview the finals. We hope you guys enjoyed the semifinals. We hope you guys enjoyed today's show. For myself and Darya, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we will see you guys later on this week. Enjoy the games this week.
Bye.